peoples? Welcome back to In My Bag. I'm your host, Autumn Sonata. So tonight we are going to be talking about the empath. We're going to dig into different myths, defining what the empath is, the dynamic between the empath and the narcissist, and also some other factors. So before we get started, I want to introduce my guests. Please welcome Miss Latoya K.
There you go.
Hey y'all.
I would say I love her, period, because you know how you can connect with a woman, and sometimes women, we're very competitive, and we're very petty sometimes, but you know, when you link up with a spirit who is genuine and authentic, and you can feel that genuine connection, I really appreciate that. So I'm thankful that you're here. I know you got some wisdom to share with us from different perspectives, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
You're welcome. So let's get into it. So Latoya K is a psychotherapist and trained life coach who has provided online education, group, and individual counseling for more than a decade. She supports clients with guidance and education that is an alternative to traditional clinical-based treatments. Her all-natural approach to healing includes nature therapy. That sounds interesting.
Yes.
Meditation, movement, herbalism, spirituality, and other creative therapies that support mental health and wellness. Nice. And you look cute doing it.
Thank you, girl. I tried. I've been trying, you know.
All right, now, what is an empath?
So, an empath is a person who is a highly feeling person who can not only understand or empathize with the feelings of people around them, but they also actually take on some of these emotions at some time. So it's like, you know, if they're in a room with a person who's very sad, they may pick up on that emotion and not know where it's coming from necessarily, but they themselves start to feel sad as well. So basically an empath just kind of takes on or internalizes the emotions of people around them. They're very sensitive to environments. They're just highly sensitive feeling people.
Yeah. An empath is someone who absorbs feelings from the outside and internalizes them. So it's an outward in movement versus the highly sensitive is inward out.
Yeah, I would define it more so as an empath being feeling and emotional, whereas a highly sensitive person is more cerebral and intuitive.
Gotcha.
You know, so they may understand what's happening at a high level with the people around them and be able to understand those emotions, but they're not going to take on that emotion. I can understand why this person is that way, you know, even if they're being difficult or, you know, obnoxious in some type of way. I can understand that and be empathetic towards them. I'm not going to take on that emotion, whereas a person who is an empath may start to feel irritable themselves.
Yes.
And not understand why.
Yes.
You know, so one is mind or head, and the other is heart.
Another myth or misinterpretation or what have you that people have is that an empath is always empathetic. The empath is just someone who's super understanding.
Yeah.
They can see people's feelings and feel those feelings and completely understand where they're coming from. And they're these very sensitive, genuine, sweet, caring people.
Yeah.
And what I come to find out is that they're two different things, empathetic and empathy.
Right.
It's two different things, or empathy and empath.
Yeah, for
Don't
sure.
necessarily
Empathic and being empathetic, that is different, because just because you're an empathic person doesn't mean that you are an understanding person. You know, it's not interchangeable. Because really, an empathic person can at times be kind of like a blank slate. They're kind of just a vessel, and these different type of emotions or spirits or whatever can kind of transfer through them.
Yeah,
and just because you are a conduit for that doesn't mean that you understand it.
Yes.
You know, it's just happening to you. It doesn't mean that you're super awesome and amazing and sweet.
Yeah.
Because an empathic person can take on bad emotions or spirits as well. And we can define that a little bit later, because there is the psychological perspective on it, but then there's also a spiritual perspective on it as well. But yeah, just because you're empathic doesn't mean that you're only feeling these high level or these high frequency type emotions. It's you're picking up on whatever's in the room. So if you are empathic person, and you're in a low frequency environment, then you may start to take on more low frequency type behaviors or thoughts or actions, because you're just a vessel. You're like a conduit. You're a, I don't know a word for it, like the thing
like
that's between some stuff, like a sponge. Yeah, like a sponge. It sounds like you're really in tune. So with you being in tune with other people, then you would start picking up on some of their mannerisms and, different, like maybe the cadence of speech or whatever, because you're tuned in that way. And they actually teach you that, like, if you want to connect with people, you can just mimic what they're doing. Just mirror their actions, like their movements, and their tone of voice, their pace of how they're speaking, and people like you more. When this is just psychological, this is like people like you more. But that's me, describing someone doing that consciously, But some people just, like, it sounds like to me, for you, it just is something that just happens. That just happens.
So there are empaths who connect with animals. You can feel the animal's emotions and their feelings or what have you. There are empaths who connect with plants. Now this, like you said, was a new concept. So
yeah, for sure, you schooled me on that, because I didn't know about it either. But yeah, it
this
may
be false. I don't know.
I feel like it makes sense, because all things are energy. You're just talking about different energies, but
there are intuitive empaths, those who process other people's thoughts, not necessarily their feelings, but they can say what you're thinking. Like in the spiritual world, we call this we call it a prophet.
Or we can call it a psychic, or we can call it like telepathy.
Come on,
there's a lot of things we can call it.
It's all the same.
Clairvoyant, clairs, a lot of clairs. But yeah.
Biggest myth, not myth, but biggest misconception, I should say, in the world today is that empaths automatically draw to narcissists.
Okay.
That's a wide range of different
yeah
channels to go down, because nowadays everybody says a narcissist is just someone who is conceited, or someone who with a high self-esteem, or someone who thinks this grand way of themselves, or someone who's manipulative only. And an empath is just the opposite of that.
Yeah, so it's like this labeling of like demon and angel. You know, like this very, very bad person is drawing in this very, very good person.
Right.
Who only wants to see like all people and all things. Everything is rainbows and butterflies, and here comes demon. With the fire, hell, brimstone, all of that. Coming to their experience and just draining them in some way, and like almost like predatory, just seeking out this type of person. And that's what it's really, now in pop culture, that's really what they break it down to, in terms of narcissists and empaths. But that's kind of complicated, because sometimes, it does stand to reason that a person with that type of personality would draw towards a person who was more empathetic, and just a little bit more vulnerable and feeling, but that's not always the case, because we were talking about this earlier, how some people be saying they empaths, but really even your thinking of yourself as empath is narcissistic, and some people aren't understanding that there are traits of narcissism that they're exhibiting, and then maybe there was like some alignment between those energies, between this narcissist and you, the empath, that brought y'all together in the first place. And maybe y'all both low-key narcissists, but but we can't talk about that. We gotta have a bad guy, and we gotta have a good guy, but it's not always that. We're so quick to refer to that, like this bad person, and I'm great.
Right.
But maybe
that's
not.
Ego-driven.
It's very ego-driven. We throw that term around so much, but there's actually a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. It's a personality disorder. And there are criteria that are stated within the DSM of what makes a person a narcissist. And only like 2% of the population are diagnosable as narcissists. So it's something that is very, very rare. And those people are like unable to ever feel empathy at any point in their lives, no matter who they're with. They are just very self-centered and self-serving. Some of them can be dangerous. Some of them can be abusive. It doesn't necessarily like, because most people believe that like this abusive person was narcissistic, but an abusive person can have narcissistic tendencies and narcissistic traits, but that doesn't mean that they are technically a narcissist, right. But there are actually criteria, and people go to doctors and talk to doctors for a long, long time. Jeez. But that's only 1 to 2% of the population actually has that, and most of the people who are diagnosed with that disorder are men. So it's more prevalent in men than women, but women have it as well.
I've seen some abusive women
in
relationships. Doesn't mean they're narcissists, but I've seen those tendencies come to life, and I have some narcissistic tendencies that I can definitely admit to. But from what I understand, the true narcissist cannot reflect back to that. It's just
that's a sickness. It's like a true it's not just a mean person. It's not a jerk. It's not an insensitive person. It's not a cheater. It's not somebody who hit you. It's not necessarily of somebody who just didn't like you. Sometimes people just don't like you.
Sometimes you're not likable. Let's get into that. Let's be honest.
Sometimes you're not likable.
Because you're a narcissist.
Right, exactly. And you're not recognizing that. So it's a very tricky thing. So that's why, I read a lot about it and I hear a lot about it. And, especially in recent years, people describe like narcissist this, narcissist that, but you have to be very careful with that term, because it's a lot more complicated than just a jerk who's selfish and evil, Yeah. Everybody's just trying to feel good.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter healthy people, unhealthy people, it's like the goal is to feel better. Yeah. And this narcissist is like just a black hole.
Oh my God.
You just throw into it. You give and you give and give, and there's no bottom to that. But the narcissist just wants to feel better.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And the person who's giving to the narcissist, who doesn't have good boundaries, is wanting to feel better.
Yeah.
If I can't make you happy, that might make me a little bit uncomfortable, so I'll instead detach from this.
Yes. Yeah.
But ultimately, that is the human experience, but it presents in all of us in different ways. And some of us, it comes out as mental illness, or a personality disorder, or abusive tendencies or whatever. But everybody's trying to patch up something within themselves and just feel good, And if you may be a casualty of war, it's not about you, not even hurting you. And that's the thing I think, when people think about narcissists, it's there is this conscious effort. There's conscious effort to hurt or destroy. And I'm sure there are some people where that's the case, but for the most part, it's not a conscious effort. It's I want to feel good, and I don't give a damn about how this affects you, because I'm trying to fix this thing within myself.
Right.
And then you just so happen to become
the source.
You are impacted by this because you are a casualty, of war.
And see, a lot of people take it personal.
Right.
They take that void that they cannot feel, and they internalize it and make it about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's very ego-driven too.
It is.
It's I'm going to give you and give you. If you can't take it, then now I feel like I'm worthless.
Right.
And so what's wrong with me?
Right.
That you're supposed to accept what I give, and I'm supposed to make you feel better, and that's very ego-driven. But from what I understand is that the only way that either of those two issues or illnesses can be healed is through self-love.
Yes.
So from what I understand, the narcissist can't and that's another thing. I don't know if they can or if they just cannot. Scientifically, spiritually, physically, they cannot.
True narcissist that is like diagnosable. This 2% of the population cannot feel love. They cannot give love. That's it. To anyone, to their children, to their lovers, to their siblings, to just, people in the community. Like, they just don't have that to give ever, and nobody can give them that or teach them that. It's like it's a deficiency. It's like that part of their brain just doesn't light up.
Right.
But other people who have narcissistic tendencies, who are not actually diagnosable, I believe that they can.
Yeah.
They can love, they can care, because chances are they have developed these tendencies through severe complex trauma. And this is how they have learned to cope. And they can unlearn that, because it's not that part of their brain doesn't work. It's just, it's just a little light flickering there, but under the right conditions, with therapy, with the right, help, they can come out of that place, but a narcissist it's just
defunct.
Right, exactly. It's just like you don't have a finger, you can learn how to function and do things without your finger, but that finger's not going to grow back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like that. If that makes sense.
That is sad. It's a fairly new, concept, like you said, but it's widely used. Like, now I hear everybody calling everybody a narcissist.
Right, and now it's oversimplified.
Right.
And people take things and they just ruin it.
Yeah.
And then eventually we're just gonna not want to say that
Social
word
media's
anymore. Yeah, and then nobody's gonna care. We're gonna really have narcissists around, and we're not gonna be able to label them, because we've the boy who cried wolf. Okay. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's great that we are at a point in history where we have a heightened understanding of that, and just even an interest in that. But it's just that's why you have to do your own research.
Yes.
There's some great information out there, but there are some things that isn't right. But you just have to find where it resonates with you, and usually when it's not true, within yourself.
Yeah.
Because even me, I've studied psychology. I was trained as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, and I actually got out of that field of work because there were a lot of ideas or principles that did not resonate with me.
Wow.
But I don't, I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, I keep the things that, that I connect with spiritually, but the things that don't, it's just like, these are people's opinions. These are people's observations. Some people's voices are going to be louder than others because they have the prestige or the money, or they have, just the name. But that doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
So you have to be smart. You can't just be a mindless consumer of information, because these people who are the experts are people.
Right.
They're
human.
people. They're human too. So you can't just depend on that and base your life on that.
Right.
And people have a hard time balancing. They just want it to be all right or just all wrong, but it's not. That's not life. Life is great. Everything is within the gray area. We don't know nothing. And then we won't really know until we die, and then we won't be able to tell nobody because we're dead. So it's just so you
that's
just
not
have
funny,
to. But that's true. So you just have to, just follow, your heart. That sounds so cliche. Follow your heart. But follow your heart. Seriously.
Have your own mind.
Have your own mind.
Some people actually they love the term narcissism. Like, you say you're conceited. Oh yes, I'm a narcissist.
Yeah.
Why do you want that?
Because they don't know. People just be talking, girl.
Why do you want that?
Saying words. Words have power. They just label. You don't let people speak over your life like that.
I just don't understand that.
No, and you don't speak over your own life in that way.
Exactly.
This is what I am.
Why would you want it? Yes, I'm a narcissist and I'm proud.
Yeah,
okay, you're trying to scare people off?
Don't call that spirit on you, girl.
And people don't understand, like you said, your words of power.
They are.
How does narcissistic characteristic affect the business world?
Wow. So, like, there are some traits that just in your everyday interactions can be considered negative, but in the business world can be considered very, very, not helpful. What's the word? Like,
Beneficial?
no, like good. Like, like being a narcissist in a business world could potentially catapult you. You can move up the ladder. We have a lot of people in high level positions who are narcissists, i.e., our president. Before he was the president, he was like he was this powerful businessman, man. But like that trait, that lack of empathy, that lack of caring, that lack of being able to connect, that all of that was something that supported him being able to make as much money as he did. So in the business world, it can work for you. It just depends on what type of business you're doing. So that's what I'm saying about something like it's not always black and white, because if you're a narcissist and you're like a doctor, that might not be as useful to you as if you're a narcissist and you're like in corporate America. That might be great for you professionally.
That it comes out as this just supreme
confidence and charisma. Like
some salesmen can be very... See, and that's another thing too, because it depends. I think it also depends on the dynamic of the relationship between the narcissist and whoever is considering them good. Yeah. Because from what I understand, the only ones who are severely impacted by the narcissist are the ones that are close to them. So an outsider, like an acquaintance or a coworker, may look at them like, they're a great person.
They're a great person.
They're charming. They don't have that intimate connection with them, so everything outside of that looks great. Yeah. But on the inside, like their partner or their parent or child is like, this is an evil person.
Right. And I believe that all of us arrive to this earth as spirit, and we occupy bodies. Like we are all spirit energy, and I think that we all come down here as light, and and we have a divine mission, and you are inherently good, but some people, circumstance or like just
environment,
and like not fighting the flesh, what makes it difficult, makes you make bad decisions and bad choices and treat people badly. But are you bad? I don't know. I could be maybe best friends with this person who you feel like terribly about. So are they bad? This person may be triggering for you. Right. Just ignorant things I'll say sometimes. I'm gonna be real. And I'm a deeply spiritual person. I read and I meditate and I walk through nature and like
feel the trees,
pick flowers, and I think some crazy things sometimes. But if people could document that, they would be like, she's not a good person. Yeah. So like I just think Kanye just has a different way of thinking. I love him. I have no problems with him. Even if you hate the music, even if you here's a person trying to heal themselves. He's not saying it's nothing wrong with me. He's saying no, it's something wrong with me.
And I'm gonna find another way to fix it.
And this makes me feel better, and I'm trying to be a better person. And who are we to say how people should do? One thing, are we not narcissists for saying
you're wrong,
right, and I'm right, and this is I'm correct and you're incorrect, and I'm great and you're not. It's just like I have a really hard time with that. I see more people being destroyed by celebrity than becoming better people.
Can you think of any celebrities that you would coin as a empath?
Jim Carrey.
I was gonna say, I was thinking about him the whole time. It's
absolutely.
Like, I love that weirdo.
Yes, me too. I love Jim Carrey. Like to the point, like he's an empath to the point that he completely assimilated to a character, like completely took on the complete persona. When he was doing that movie, Man on the Moon.
I have not seen it.
They have a whole documentary about it, and he did not come out of character for like 6 months, and it is like fascinating. Like he's for sure an empath, and he has to disconnect quite a bit.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, just get off the grid because he would lose his mind.
And
it's too much.
You hear people say that he's crazy, or in a sense, yeah,
because
you're not of this realm. Like you don't connect with people on the same level as you did or as someone else would. So understanding is so much more externally focused than it is internally. Like when we understand or when we listen to understand, it's not a reaction. You're really ready to react or respond. It's you're really sitting still, removing yourself and stepping into the other person's shoes. Okay, here is your turn to really tell me and show me everything that you're feeling. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to voluntarily absorb that. Like who really does that
without judgment? You know, I'm going to step back and I'm going to hear you and see you and radically accept you. I don't know people who radically accept. I don't know very many people who do that. It's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
You know, because it's so easy to be I. You know, take things personally, you know, but it's like you do have to practice that, looking at things from other people's perspectives. I feel like especially within our culture. Because it's just like you don't want nobody to punk you, you don't want nobody to try you, play you, cheat you, hurt you. Like it's like this defensiveness, and it's almost like I know when I was growing up, you know, I was taught to really be suspicious and defensive, you know, because you don't want people to hurt you. You know, so to train yourself out of that way of thinking is difficult because you have most of your life thought about it like me, you know, but half the time people aren't even thinking about you. It's not about you. People think about themselves.
Exactly.
People
and a lot
always
of times you
think
just
about
want
themselves.
to be heard.
The best way for an empath, or even if you're not an empath, just a person who finds yourself in a situation with a person with narcissistic tendencies, is to figure yourself out. Is to connect with yourself, is to draw everything that you need from within yourself. And I know it sounds easier. It's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
For sure. But you have to work towards that, because as long as you are not grounded within yourself and you need external validation for anything, good or bad, you are a slave to any person. They don't even have to be a narcissist. Any strong personality person
or thing, social media,
influence, exactly. You know, can knock you off your square, and you all of a sudden don't know who you are or can't, you know, but when you're grounded in yourself, that kind of protects you from that. That's a cushion. And the way that we do that is through meditation. You know, I'm a huge believer in meditation, and it's because it quiets the mind. Our minds are busy. It lifts the veil. It gives your mind a chance to heal itself, because and breathe. Because even when you're sleeping, your mind is busy. When you're dreaming, your mind isn't even stopping. It's still working. So through like practicing meditation, I started off with like 5 minutes, and then eventually I got to the point I can do like an hour and a half. And it wasn't like complete silence in my mind, but there are moments of like nothing. And it's tripped out, because when it happens, it's like, whoa, you know, you like pull yourself back, because we're so used to our minds just talking and talking and talking and talking. Doing that, it grounds you. Spending time in nature, I'm a big fan of that. You have to spend time in nature. That's where we come from. That is what heals us. It grounds us. It connects us. It's perfection.
It's the most calming thing.
It's calming.
Like, I love to, when weather permits, because I ain't trying to mess up my... Never mind. I love to just go outside and just lay down on the ground. And some people think that is so strange. I'm like, you don't understand. That is the most calming thing, and it's cool, and it's peaceful. And that's another thing. Like, a lot of people are not comfortable being alone.
They're not. They just, you know, they're so frightened by that or threatened. But you wonder why people don't want to be with you. You don't even want to be with you.
Come on now.
You don't want to be with you.
Don't hurt feelings. Well, hurt feelings, tell the truth, because it hurts sometimes.
So why do you expect somebody else to go out of their way to be with a person who doesn't even want to be with themselves? You know, so a lot of it, and it's not about blaming, like, you know, a victim. It's not about blaming a person, but it's just like you have to take responsibility and accountability for yourself and your position and why you even attracted this energy in the first place. You don't grow like that. You don't grow like that. So it's just all about personal accountability and just doing whatever you need to heal within yourself. and everything else falls into line. Because if you're like really grounded and secure within yourself, a narcissist ain't even gonna want to be with you.
Right.
Like you're not gonna exactly. It's like
Yeah.
you ain't even fun. Like
Right.
when you going off, you're doing your own thing.
You ain't weak. Like what am I
Exactly.
with
You're
you?
not at my beck and call. Like you're not even interesting to them. They're not gonna be interested in you and waste their time with you. And
That's
that
so true.
takes care of the problem itself, just like automatically. There was something in you that was open. There was a door that was open to this type of person.
Yeah.
And if you do not heal by understanding the part that you have played in this particular situation, then that door is still in the closed. He might be gone or she might be gone, but somebody else is going to walk through the door and they're going to have the same type of energy. So you have to resolve that. And I know people who have been like that for years. They have the same experiences over and over and over. I'm talking about 10, 15 years. It's like, how?
And they never
At
sit
what
to say,
point does it just get too much? Like, I'm going to do
tired.
something different. Like, way different, because I don't like to feel like this.
yeah. And
This
that's the
isn't
point you have
working
to
for
get
me
to.
anymore.
That's the point you have to get to.
Yeah. Some people be liking that pain. It gives
I
them something
want
to talk about.
Yeah.
and-
Or to how, tribalism, like you want to associate with this type of behavior.
Yeah.
So you get into these groups. And that's the other interesting thing. Like I'll see someone post, my narc did this today. And then, my narc did this too.
Oh.
And they made me do this to myself. And
Sounds
now I'm on
fun.
drugs. I'm like, y'all are okay
You
with
said
this?
he made me do this and now I'm on drugs.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
Like,
not,
what
like,
is
this is
that?
not fun. Like,
What is
I don't
that?
understand this.
Just giving away your power. This
Right.
person ain't even thinking about
It's like,
you while
here.
you're out getting your,
Here's
whatever.
all of me, destroy it, and I want you to
Right.
keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I understand it because people just want to feel a part of something, but when that is destroying you,
Yeah.
it's like, and they keep saying, why me, why me, why you?
Some people just connect very deeply to that pain. They connect with it, they identify with it, it is their friend. This pain, is my constant companion. I can think about it, gives me something to do. It gives me something to think about. It makes people respond to me in a certain way because they see me as this, here I am, the bird with the broken wing, and now these people, they come to my rescue. Like, some people use that disempowerment as a way to empower themselves.
Yeah, that's scary.
And they don't know, though. People just don't know. But that's why you have to be self-aware. That's why you have to connect with your spirit, because you're misaligned if you're needing that to feel good, because your spirit doesn't resonate with that. That means something is
flesh.
off. Yeah, for sure. That's flesh. Absolutely.